Welcome to the Progress Portland podcast. I am Kip Silverman,
I'm not Kip.
and today we have Sean Davis, who I've known, I'm guessing 10
Years,
plus years.
years,
Yeah.
decades now.
Formerly of Portland, Oregon, which is how we knew each other, and running for mayor of Astoria, Oregon. So I feel like we need to do a little logo that says Progress Astoria and cross out the
Oh,
Portland. But
you should.
Sean, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here. It's a beautiful day on the coast. It never really gets too hot here or too cold, so I love it. I took a walk on the river walk this morning.
I love the river walk. Hopefully next time you're down there, say hi to Coffee Girl for me, one of my favorite places in
Love
Astoria.
Coffee Girl. Yeah,
Yeah,
but now
right on.
Coffee Girl's always good, and don't get me wrong, but you got to go to Sleeper too because it's right on Pier 12, and you look out the window and you can see the pilot boats go out and come in, and it's
Oh,
really, really nice. It's really, and it's in
okay.
the middle of town, so you can walk everywhere else as well.
So not only are we going to talk to Sean Davis about his experiences in Astoria and running for mayor of Astoria, but we're also going to get some tourist tips
Yeah, definitely.
because I got Coffee Girl and I got Blue Scorcher and not a whole hell of a lot more. So,
Oh, man,
um,
Fort George is opening up a smokehouse
oh,
this
and Fort George.
weekend.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in the
Better
Lavelle
fix
room.
that.
They had a tap room there. Now they have a smokehouse. They're smoking ribs and
Oh,
meat. It'll be good.
right on. Okay. So let's talk about running for mayor of Astoria. Currently, you are unopposed, it looks like.
I am. I do expect, like, I don't think people should run unopposed. If you have a candidate that's running against you, it's just going to make you a better candidate. So, and I don't think that's democracy unless you have somebody running against you. The mayor that is in right now, he ran unopposed 4 years ago, and I think he might run for reelection, but he's not saying yet. He has until mid-August to make up his mind.
Right on. Let's talk about your campaign a bit. The thing that struck me about it, which is not unusual, but very much the same type of issues that we deal with here in Portland are front and center in Astoria. Besides the fact that it's a lovely small town, a lot of the trade being tourism also, but I know folks who live there, and it's also a multitude of communities. In the news are many of the same type of issues we have here, right? So on your website, you talk about homelessness, livability, infrastructure issues,
Affordable housing is huge too. Yeah.
housing. Yeah.
I want to talk about homelessness, definitely, because that's really what's on everybody's mind now, because you see the tents out in all the streets and stuff. In Clatsop County, we have more homeless per capita than any other county in the state of Oregon. For instance, I think it's one in every 34 residents here are
Wow.
homeless. And in Multnomah County, it's one in every 76 residents. And right now, our towns aren't doing the best I don't know. I mean, they're all trying really hard, but I mean, it's a very complicated problem. But I think Astoria has really done an amazing job trying to combat this issue, trying to get people housed. We converted the Columbia Inn into a place where transitional housing. We just opened up the Baker
Oh, wow.
Building last year, which has permanent support housing for homeless, and we just opened the Owens Adair 2 building. You're allowed to go in there if you had chronic homelessness and you're over 62 years old. What they do is they'll move you in there, and they'll take, I think, 27% of your earnings, which is probably Social Security, and then you have a place, either a 1-bedroom or a studio. And we're really trying hard, but it's, you guys see that out there in Portland as well. It's difficult.
Well, in Clatsop County, most of your funding comes from actually the state, so you don't even have like a full city control over how you get to make change.
Yeah. And we're having a hard time with that right now because years ago, when the governor decided to give out emergency funds for homelessness, doing some kind of oversight, she skipped Clatsop County. And so our county commissioners went and said, hey, wait a minute, we have the largest amount per capita. And so it was kind of, I don't want to say a knee jerk reaction because that's bad connotations, but it was a game of catch up. And so she gave a lot of money to Clatsop County, which was split evenly between Clatsop Community Action, CCA, and then Lifeboat, which is low barrier. And right now, Lifeboat's not getting that same funding. CCA is getting funding.
And
We have
helping hands.
helping hands in the harbor,
That's
all
right.
all the funding's going down, obviously, because this administration and the state's having a hard time, they're getting crunched. So we're in the middle of finding out whether or not our low barrier lifeboat is gonna be closed, and that's gonna get rid of 22 low barrier beds. Columbia Inn, which is CCA, are trying to make up that difference by remodeling a couple of rooms for some low barrier, but it's difficult and really not sure where that's gonna go right now. And it's really difficult for, mayoral candidate because I can't step in there and say, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna do this and do that." I mean, I'm just gonna the mayor here is just another city council member, honestly, but it's kinda like the focal point or the mouthpiece of the council.
Right.
Yeah, I think Lifeboat is only they got slashed. Lifeboat used to have close to 200,000 something dollars allocated, now it's down to, like, 62,000 or something?
I know they got cut by about 78% this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact numbers of the funds, and they're still on. When I decided I was going to run for mayor, I went and talked to Oz and Aaron, who run it. They're a married couple who run it. That Lifeboat, Filling Empty Bellies, and Beacon. And I went through there and I toured it, and it's definitely a service that no one else provides that's needed. And I hate that people, I've been to so many of the city council meetings and the county commission meetings, and I'm sitting next to people, and they're like, "Well, you just got to get them a bus ticket and get out of here," And
Well,
that's
that's how they ended up there, actually.
yeah, well, yeah, yeah,
If you
and,
talk to like, I I spent some time in Astoria a couple years ago, and I spent one night out till about 4 in the morning sitting outside
mhm.
talking to a number of houseless people, and they told me how they ended up in Astoria. They got bused, and Clatsop County had a contract with the organizations to shelter, as in a shelter first model. So they got pushed from other
Hmm.
places to there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot from Washington because there's no resources in Southwest Washington like we have here.
And
There's
Portland,
a
we
lot of
bust some people out to you.
Yeah, Portland, definitely, down the coast as well. I mean,
Yeah.
because Astoria is the seat of the county, and so a lot of people come here. But not only that, I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, they're coming in on buses." I did a ride along with both the Astoria police, and then I was talking to the county sheriffs. If anybody has a warrant out for Clatsop County and they break the law anywhere in the state of Oregon, they go to a place in Salem where they're held. And then the county sheriff, Clatsop County sheriff, has to go and extradite them, bring them back here to be held or at least be arraigned. After that arraignment, they're just let out, and if they don't have the means, to go anywhere, we just imported another homeless person, and I asked the deputy, like, "How often does that happen?" He's like, "Up to 12 times a week,"
Mhm.
Wow.
So there's all kinds of reasons why they end up here, but the way that we solve it, I mean, I don't know. We've put a lot of money and resources, and I think we've really done a lot more than most cities our size. I think the true problem is that we're treating homeless people like outsiders, like pariah. I did a ride along with CCA as well, and I went and talked to all the people. Well, not a lot of the people in the tents, and I talked to a lot of the homeless. I know them by name, and I talked to them like they're people. And they're saying, they people are throwing cans at them. They're ripping their tents. There's on the waterfront where they're forced to live in tents. They have one person that comes at 3:30 in the morning and just blows a huge whistle just to inconvenience and wake them up. When they're feeling like they're outsiders, they're not invested in the community. So who cares? They're just going to live how they want to live and they're going to throw their trash everywhere. But I feel if you start treating them like people and then getting to know their names and getting to know their stories and then working with them, because I really believe it's a matter of motivation. Because not only are they fighting, a lot of them are fighting, alcoholism, drug addiction, but now they're fighting mental health issues because everybody thinks like they're this other type of race or something. And you got to bring them into the fold. Uh, our city councilors right now, Councilor Adams and Councilor Mazzarella, put together this shelter first plan that we're trying. At first, we were trying to do a designated camping zone like Seaside did with a place called Stepping Stones, and I think that's great. But I went and toured the place. I'm combat veteran, 12 years in the military. That looks like somewhere we'd put POWs,
Mhm.
honestly, in
Mhm.
war zone. I'm not saying, I mean, you put them up in a nice hotel. I don't know, but like, I think we tried to figure out if we can have a designated camping zone in Astoria. But like you guys said, there's no land. We're surrounded by water.
Yeah.
There's really no place to put it. They came up with 2 ideas, and it's arguably purposely bad ideas, so we don't do this. They oh, man, that city council meeting was packed full of people, and everybody was screaming like, "What are you doing? Why would you put them there?" Because it's, like, right in downtown in a empty lot or something, and so they're like, "Alright, we're not gonna do that one, and so now we're gonna do shelter first." My solution, I mean, I'm not gonna jump in there and think I know how to fix everything. No, I don't. But I think this is a community problem, and it's not gonna be solved by 5 people in City Hall. The
Mhm.
community has to solve this problem. We all have to come together. We gotta work with our nonprofit organizations, we gotta work with our hospitals, we gotta work with, Clatsop Behavioral Health, we gotta work with our faith-based community, which is underutilized, and, just the people, I was talking to a couple of the candidates during the primaries where I didn't have to primary, but they were primary, so they're going door to door. I'm asking like, what's the number one thing that you learned when you're going door to door? And like told me like there's so many people that are motivated to do something, but they don't
Mhm.
know what to do. And so that's what I hope to do as a mayor, be a citizen mayor who like, all right, here's an option. Let's try it out. I need your help. Come on, let's do this together. That type of
It's not like you don't have any experience with, practical aspects of this. I think one of the times I really got to know you, you were helping shelter people in Northeast Portland and doing fundraisers for unhoused folks. You've worked, your military career, you worked in community building. I can say words. Also, from what was something I didn't know about you, I read on your campaign site is that you spent time in Katrina as well, in the aftermath of Katrina. So you've seen what happens when people have the most meager of resources and not the rest of the support systems they need to thrive or even get back on their feet so that they have an opportunity to thrive.
And I'll tell you the difference too, because I'll say, yeah, I had a lot of experience leading different groups to help a community, including after the holiday farm fire when I was living up in
Mhm.
Central Oregon that
Right.
wiped out my whole community. I was there the next day in my yellows and greens as a firefighter trying to help. Then I went into writing grants and working with FEMA. But the thing is with the natural disasters, the fires, the hurricane, flooding, but also war zones. And I was in Haiti during the revolution, so that
Oh,
the
wow.
thing is, the difference there and now here in Astoria with our homeless problem is when you are in a revolution, when you're in a war, or you're in the aftermath of a natural disaster, you are in an emergency. You are in an environment that something drastic just happened and you all work together to solve a problem. Astoria and Clatsop County, we are in a homeless emergency, but we don't really have that feeling that we are in it. If a war happens, all right, I'm in a war zone. But here in Clatsop County now we have so many homeless and in places that are unaffordable for people to live. I spoke to a woman who works at Coffee Grill. She's been here for 3 years. She moved here from Montana. She's been couch surfing and homeless.
Mm.
She can't find a place to actually afford to live. So what I'm trying to say is you have the luxury of knowing that you're in an emergency. I mean, it's really horrible, bad stuff, but here today, even though we are in one, we don't realize it. And so we're not pulling together. And I'm hoping to be someone who motivates the community, say, to realize we can pull together and solve this problem.
Create the sense of urgency. Yeah. Cat,
Yeah, well, I
yeah.
know people get exhausted with these things. It's like 10 years ago, 2016, like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of homeless people. What can we do? Let's
Yeah.
collect supplies. Let's, donate my clothing, do all these things. Now it's 2026 and we've seen it across the state. We've seen it across the nation. They're just like, arrest them. And Astoria, part of the shelter first model is also to have the police trespass homeless people if they refuse to go to a shelter.
Yeah,
That's
we were
not an
just
answer.
changing that ordinance right now. I think it changes on the 14th or the 15th. Yeah. Yeah, and the police, I just did another ride along with the Astoria police. And I don't envy what they're doing. They work really hard. They're definitely not a bad guy. I think the real issue right now is Senate Bill 48 because it does not work well with at least our part of rural Oregon. That's where they said that you can't keep somebody unless it's a violent crime where they're going to hurt themselves or going to hurt somebody else. So when you're arraigned, you're just released. And so there's no consequence for the actions. We have one homeless person here. I know him by name. He broke into a business and stole a bunch of stuff. He was arrested, let out that day. The next week, he broke into somebody's home, and then he was arrested and he was let out the next day. And then he just went and started grabbing people's mail out of the mailboxes, and then they was held because that's a federal crime. So, I mean, we had a huge city get together where the chief of police, the county deputy, and our district attorney were there to answer questions like, why are you guys not doing anything? And they are, it's just they can't do too much. At this point, the DA said, we have 27 pages of crimes where we can't hold people. We only have 3 pages of crimes where we can. And so people are it's cycling through without any consequence, and it's difficult. I can see the business owners' points of view for sure, because what are you going to do? You trespass somebody when they come back, but they just keep coming back. But also, I think that, like I said, we need to treat our people on the streets as if they're human beings, which that should not be, some kind of far fetched idea.
Shouldn't be a controversial thing, and the idea that there's nothing in between is problematic,
Yeah.
especially if there's no resources for diversion, some degree of accountability, those sorts of things, and it
Or
sounds like
mental health help. I mean, a
mental
lot of
health
these crimes are
resources.
just done because somebody has not slept for 3 days, not eaten. They're regressing to their most emotional, mature self at the moment. Not necessarily a violent thing. If somebody's ripping up mail, it's not because they're trying to, like, take your mail. They're just having basically a fit. And it's like, where's the social services that could have stopped this before it got there?
No.
Yeah, but I also speaking to the people on the front lines. I have a good friend, David. He works for Classic Behavioral Health. My wife is a social worker. She's getting her master's degree in social work right now, and she was out there on the program to trying to rehabilitate people after they get out of. So they'll get a little bit more lenient of a sentence if they go talk to a social worker. But she had a knife pulled on her. Somebody said threatened to come down there and shoot everybody in the office.
Mhm.
Several times. It's really a difficult thing, especially if like you're the one of the people that are supposed to be empathetic or sympathetic, and you're being attacked, so it's
Oh,
tough.
yeah, no, that happened to me when I was the executive director of Sisters of the Road. Somebody threatened me with a knife, somebody else pulled the gun, but you'd also had to see through what they were doing. And if you could
Yeah,
talk them down, de-escalate it, some people were not allowed to come back for 15 to 30 days, depending. And then a lot of times we would sit down, they would come back and say, I'm sorry, I was fucked up that day.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
It's
we didn't call the cops. We didn't have them arrested.
definitely takes a special type of person. When we turned that American Legion post into a homeless shelter in, I think it was 2017, 16, 17, when the streets were freezing up and people were dying. We had the same thing. I was really naive. I thought if I had a pot of coffee and a crock pot, people can just crash in the corners, but it wasn't. But we actually did some good. I mean, I think we had up
no.
to like 38 people a night there, and the community really came together with clothing drives and food drives. But we did. We had one guy pull a knife on us, and we were all
Mhm.
combat vets running
I
that. Like,
remember
buddy, this is the wrong place to do that.
that.
But it was really surreal. We had one woman who was prostituting in the bathroom off of an app. I'm like, come on, you can't do that. I had to warn her like 3 times, and finally she wouldn't listen. We had to kick her out, and it was
Yep.
like midnight, and she's pushing this baby stroller full of her stuff, and the moon's in the sky going down Alberta Street. It was just surreal. I felt so bad, but really nothing we could do.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you still have to have boundaries. I mean, and part of your thing about treating them like a person is telling them, like, hey, you're not going to get away with stuff just because of your financial status. Like, if you're an asshole, you're an asshole, and we're going to tell you you're being an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly, they respect you more when you do that
yeah.
because you're actually talking to them like a human being.
I think we were the only homeless shelter in Portland that had karaoke night.
Yeah. I recall that too, actually.
And my buddy Daniel, he was a Vietnam vet, but he could sing. He would do Stevie Wonder. That was probably the highlight of his week right there, or a month. He really he did a great job, and he doesn't usually get to do that type of stuff, right?
I'm super curious about Astoria. My impression of it, tell me if I'm wrong, but I mean, there's definitely some affluence there, but it also seems it still has its remnants of the canneries and stuff, and a lot of working class folks. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of infrastructure there that is not in the greatest shape. And like, it's interesting going to the Cannery Museum, which I've been to a few times, not a ton to see, but I'm like, this is a paradigm that is not normal is not the right word, usual
Mhm.
for the rest of what my understanding is. So I'm curious about your perspective after the time that you've been in Astoria about some of the housing and infrastructure challenges there alone, along with the additional resources needed for everybody to be able to find a place to be.
Yeah. Well, so we were founded in 1811, right? We're the oldest American settlement west of the Rockies. And we have 80 miles of pipe in the ground. A lot of it was made in the 1800s still. We have, we, until 1975, we just put our sewage into the Columbia River mostly. And then they finally built a water waste treatment plant with a lifespan of 25 years. We're still using that today. So it's been double its lifespan. We are very lucky that we own our own watershed. The city of Astoria owns the Bear Creek watershed. And so we're able to get a lot of just amazing water. I would say like 50 years ago, maybe longer than that, there were stories of housewives like filtering the water with their pantyhose to get impurities out. This year, our public works got the award for the best rural city drinking water in the state. So, I mean, they've
Mm,
made a lot of improvements. But we don't have any capital improvement funds here. There's
Mhm.
none. All of the stuff that we have been using for our big projects to replace the Archimedes screws and all of the different the plants around here in the city, they come from grants. I mean, so that was the number one thing that I learned. If people say, "Well, you go to all these meetings," is what have you learned? I learned that our infrastructure is aging. Like I said, 80 miles of pipes under the ground. And most of them are over 100 years old. And we don't have any funds set aside if there is an emergency, like if a big earthquake hits or tsunami or anything, we're at the mercy of FEMA. And usually, and I know this from experience because of the fire in Mackenzie Bridge, the municipality, the city, the town, the county has to pay for these things first, and then they get reimbursed by FEMA. We don't have any money to pay for this first, and so you're at the mercy of FEMA paying for it, and it's going to take forever. So that's one of the things that I really have to figure out what we have to do, and really, it's making a resiliency fund in the budget. Anytime that we can peel off some extra money and put it in there, we have to. I know from experience, preventative funding is so much cheaper than reactionary funding because
yeah.
I was a wildland firefighter for years. And if we put a little bit more money into thinning the forest and taking care of our forest, the governor wouldn't call conflags every other year where anybody can come in and she's just writing, checks over and over again for everything. So getting people convinced to be able to do that is tough. I mean, we've already raised our utility prices twice in the last 2 years by 4%
Mm.
because for about a good 20, 25 years, we didn't raise them at all. And now, because of that, I mean, we're suffering. So it's tough.
Yeah, and that quick increase serves as a regressive tax, of course.
Oh, yeah.
People who least can afford it are going to be the heaviest hit by it. I'm curious about your state representation and how the city council kind of liaises with that. Because if a lot
I
of it,
honestly am too. I mean, right now, how they're liaising is our co-chair for the city or the county commission is running for a state position, and she's running for Weber's old seat. I guess that was state senate.
Mm,
Oh, okay.
And then we have Representative Javadi, who was a Republican, who switched to Democrat, and he was the deciding vote on the gas tax that was going to happen. That got voted completely down because, I mean, Clatsop County especially is bond saturated. They will not vote for anything right now. I mean, we try to get past. I think in Warrington they try to get a bond for their fire department. It just didn't pass. So
wow.
It's not you're not gonna make any money for infrastructure trying to make a bond nowadays, It's tough.
It seems to me that people don't understand that if you do act in a proactive mentality rather than a reactive, yes, you're putting money somewhere that maybe will never have to get used for that emergency. But wouldn't you rather have it than
Mm,
now where there's a wildfire and suddenly all this stuff happens, or we have a housing crisis and all these things are
Yeah.
happening? Or, like you said, your pipes, in theory, should probably get updated, but you have no money for this. God
Well, I
forbid
mean,
there is a disaster of some multitude that
yeah.
there hasn't been a contingency. We do this with our own lives. I'm assuming you have home insurance.
Mhm.
Hopefully you never have to use it. But like, why can't governments plan the same way we're told to plan our personal?
It's tough. I mean, Astoria has a unique issue. I mean, we've had 10,000 people in our population for 100 years. I mean,
Mhm.
in the 40s, right after World War II, I think we went up to 20,000, but we went back down to 10,000. And because of the different, our tax system only goes up 3% a year. So that is all we have. We unless we have huge, development, which we don't have any land to develop
Right.
on. I mean, really the big potential right now is Tongue Point, which is, east of Astoria. It's a big piece of land in the Columbia. We have a couple of industries out there, and a Job Corps out there. But the problem with Tongue Point is a lot of it's owned by federal, some by state, some by county, some by the city, and no one really knows where those jurisdictions end, and we can't even get roads out there right now. I mean, there's some roads, but they don't really make sense because they were built for a Navy base that didn't really take. They're trying to build and they decided not to after World War II. So it's confusing, but without clear leadership and actual communication with the public, it's not going to happen. And I think that's why I decided to run. Well, honestly, I'm just some kind of middle class guy, family with working family middle class, and I see so much just chaos out there. I see a lot of our national stage. The politics are insane. And I felt so much like I needed to make a difference. Like, how do you make a difference? And you have to start where you live. And that's why I ran. And I was going to run just for counselor because when I ran for Portland, looking back at lessons learned, I should have run for just a city councilor position, and I could have probably got that instead of mayor. So I was going to do that here. But then I was talking to some of the city councilors and they encouraged me to run for mayor. And so I'm like, well, if I have their support and I'm doing this to have experience running campaigns, I'm going to go for it. And so I do have a really good team. And that's why I decided to run for mayor here in Astoria.
I was gonna say that would be one of my questions that I probably should have asked you already. What made you decide to run
I
after?
honestly, people do ask that, but I don't see that as an important question as people might
Right.
think it is. It's more like, how are you gonna do stuff? Or what's your priorities, that type of thing. And my priorities are serious, just like trying to figure out how to help the homeless, because I really believe that we need to help our most vulnerable,
Mhm.
how to make more affordable housing here, for our workforce, because in Astoria, you don't pay to get on the ballot. You have to get signatures. And so you have to have signatures from people who live in Astoria. And so I went to all the coffee shops, all the breweries, the art galleries, the bakeries, and half the people who work there can't sign my paper because they can't afford to live
Oh, wow.
in the city that they work in, and they're making an amazing, you know, a story is amazing because of the people who are working here, but a lot of them can't afford to live here. And so that's why I'm like, really have to concentrate on workforce housing, and that's important. So homelessness, affordability, and then I really believe that we need to use organizations like Cedar and Colpack to recruit businesses to come in so we can have industrial and commercial jobs, because I've seen communities that lean too heavy into tourism,
Right.
and it just tears them apart. You got Airbnb, and the service industry doesn't pay give
Mhm.
you a 401k. It doesn't give you a pension. You make minimum wage and you can't really live on that. I want when my daughter graduates high school here, she's going to be a senior next year. I want her to go to college and travel around, but if she chooses to come back to Astoria, I want her to be able to move here and have a good job and be able to afford to live. And that's what I hope for other people's kids here too.
I
I'm
think that's one of the
curious.
hard
Mm.
balances, though. It's like, Astoria has this really, really awesome charm to it. It's not a city, so it's like you feel like you just got away to the coast, but it's not like the coast here where it's all touristy
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I
Those are
really,
small
really
businesses that make it amazing, and it's the people
yeah,
and art here, and it's the fact that it's not a lean so much into tourism like maybe Seaside or a Cannon Beach.
and it's not all the commercials and chains that have popped up, like, like,
In fact,
there's
we have city ordinances that don't allow them to be in here, you know?
yeah, so the hard part is how do you balance that without unintentionally gentrifying or pricing people out while you're trying to also make sure that working class families can stay?
Well, I don't have a simple answer for that, but I do have an answer. So right now, Clatsop County and the city of Astoria don't pay their counselors or commissioners. Well, I think I get a five or $600 stipend before taxes, right, a month. And so if you don't pay your elected officials, then the only people who can afford to be an elected official is somebody who has either the money to not have to do other stuff, or someone who is retired and they're living on retirement or a pension. I'm lucky because I'm unique because I got blown up in the military and the VA's taking care of me. But there's what ends up happening is there's not a whole lot of representation for working families and just younger people. The city council right now is very diverse, and we're really lucky. But a lot of people here they just don't really communicate as well because they're from like different classes.
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. So a lot of people are looking at that, like, there's not communication going on in the city council as much. There's not a whole lot of communication going on between the city and the county.
Mhm.
And I say this, but I just met with the chair of the county, commission, and he told me, like, "I heard you saying that, but I talk to the mayor all the time." And so my question to him was like, "Are you telling people that you're talking to the mayor? Are you doing something to let people know that you're talking to our mayor?"
Right.
Because that is definitely that's definitely something that people believe that you guys are not talking. So it's really burdens on you to show them that they're wrong, you
Yeah.
know?
That seems really important. The folks that I know that do live in Astoria, I'm a political creature. I like to understand places and how they operate. I rarely hear about the structure of Astoria and how it works from folks that live there, right? We hear about the challenges it has, but you don't hear somebody stepping up saying these things need to happen, right?
Well, we're
So I
proud, very proud people, man. I mean,
yeah,
we have Uniontown, we have Upper Town, we have the downtown, we have the North Slope, we have the South Slope, we have Alderbrook. I mean, we have very, very defined neighborhoods, but we
yeah,
all are Astorians. So
all right,
it's definitely unique and complicated, but also that's what makes it beautiful, you know?
Mhm. It's very Astoria is very interesting. I went there on vacation and I drove, so I stayed downtown primarily. But then last summer, I rode my motorcycle through and spent the day there, and it was a totally different vibe, totally different class of people. And that you can see the different neighborhoods in a sense of who's
Oh, yeah.
going to come and talk to you, or where can you go and hang out and park 7 motorcycles as opposed to where do you pay for your
Yeah.
car. It's a
Yeah.
fun place.
And the more you come, you still find stuff that's just really amazing here, and it's just like I said, I love that I'm able to live here, first off, and that I'm able to be a candidate for an elected position here is just a complete honor, so Astoria is pretty amazing.
Do you think when elected that you're gonna shake up a little bit some of the old school thinking or some of the compassion fatigue that people have and get them to remember, like, we have to take care of each other?
Well, I hope that, I really do believe that people do love each other and support each other. I think we really live in an age of outrage. We do have a couple
mhm,
people who jump on social media and exaggerate claims, on both sides, whatever. And then they get a bunch of people at city council to get up at public comment and they scream at the council.
Yep.
And sometimes it's easy to forget that, these are only like 10 people. There's another 9,990 people out there that are not yelling at you. And then, it kind of changes policy or whatnot. But it's really difficult. Hopefully, if I get elected, I'm not going to come in and start changing things because in my experience in the military, good leaders don't do that. What I will do is take some time to get to know the city staff, the
mm,
city manager. Those ones they do such hard work and they're pretty amazing. So I want to get to know them. I've been watching the city councils for like, I guess, 7 months now. So I know the members from an observer's point of view, but I'd like to get to know as, somebody I work with, because the mayor isn't the boss of the city council. The mayor is just another city council person who gets to set the agenda for the meetings and right now gets to appoint people to the commissions. I
Hmm.
think it should be the entire council being able to appoint people to different commissions, because then you don't have one person doing it. You have one motivation or one view of what the future should look like. But that's what I'm going to do is get to know people. And then I do have certain ideas on how to solve problems that I've learned over, my years in the military and on battlefields after natural disasters, but also just in communities, that
Yeah.
aren't on fire. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that 'cause, if the public isn't really aware of what's happening in the governmental space and how the different intergovernmental agencies are working with each other, what resources are available, that's something you definitely do bring to the table, if I can, talk a little bit about that, is that you've always been really easy approach to talking with people, explaining what problems are and what your intentions are, which is one of the things I've always appreciated. I'm curious about your ideas on changing how, rather than 10 people screaming at city council, how to engage broader with the community and help them get on board with ideas of workforce housing and leaning in to make sure that the problems you do have do get addressed proactively rather than waiting for
Right.
something horrible to happen.
Well, I think that's one of my strengths. For years, I taught college. I taught critical thinking, and
Mm,
and I really believe that everything is an argument. Even if that argument is you should listen to what I'm trying to say, or you should read what I'm trying to write, and that involves rhetoric, right? It's ethos, pathos, and logos.
Hmm.
Using your own story, ethos. Using real statistics, logos, and then trying to appeal to people's emotions, pathos. So reaching the people, there's a lot of opportunity there. We have
yeah.
KMUN, which is an amazing community radio station. I would jump on there maybe every 2 weeks, somebody interviewing the mayor about like what's going on so they can tune in and actually listen to like the problems that we're having that and not be in a city council setting. Use new thing like Discord or social media. I mean, there's no reason why we're not using that stuff to let people know like this is what's going on in our community. I mean, we do have social media for Parks and Rec and the police, but
Hmm.
it's usually just a photo with a caption. Actually have like small interviews or I'll definitely I have a coffee every week on Tuesdays at the American Legion for vets, but
Mm,
I'd have a coffee for just meet the mayor. They do that in, I think, Seaside has that, right? Come meet the mayor and have coffee with him. But mostly I'm a citizen's mayor. I'm going to be out like this month. I'm going to be at the county fair. I'm going to be at our column is turning 100 years old, so there's a big festival
mm.
tent out there. I'm going to be at the Sunday market. We have Sunday market from Mother's Day to into November. So I'm everywhere. I'm doing a we have a 0.08K at a bar a pub called Bridge and Tunnel. This guy Dwayne Smallwood puts it on with our Astoria downtown historic district, and it's awesome. So I'm going to go there
I
and
love
run
that.
0.08 of a kilometer and then have a
I
beer and
could
do it
even probably do that, and I don't run unless someone's chasing me.
And then I'm on a softball team I started with my nonprofit. So I have a nonprofit that fights veteran suicide called Rogue Cell, and we
Yeah.
did a documentary and this other stuff. So I'm out there all the time. And I'm not doing this because I'm running for mayor. I'm doing this because this is my lifestyle, and I want people to know that I'm out there and stop me and say hi. I'm like, hey, what about this? The other day, I was grabbing a 6 pack from our little convenience store on the other side, and they're like, hey, you're running for mayor, man. Every day these kids, they run across this street with their back. They get their candy here. They run across the street to those apartments over there. And I've seen more than a couple almost get hit. So I wrote city council. I'm like, hey, this is the issue. And so they're going to be bringing it up. And it's just something like that. And I think
Wow.
Hmm.
that is the leadership style. Active leadership, lead by example. And then, it's just how it should be.
So, all right, you moved to Astoria in 22,
4.5
23.
years ago. Yeah. 2022. Yeah. April
So
1st.
what I guess looking back, what differences do you see between the way Portland governs and the way Astoria governs?
Well, you have to understand, before I moved here, I was in McKenzie Bridge for 5 years, so I
Yeah.
haven't been to Portland in 10 years now. When I was running there, I was running on the fact that we need to have representation in our city councilors. That was one of my big things because we had all of them were at large. And what happens when you get elected to city council in Portland? You move to Southwest Portland. You just live up
Right.
in the hills, and you don't even know what the other side of 82nd looks like.
Right.
So I was really pushing that, and it finally happened. I was trying to turn that Wapato jail into a peer-run homeless center with addiction and alcohol treatment run by the people that are in there. And I don't think they did it how I wanted it to happen, but they
Mm.
finally did that.
No, it is a private facility funded with Schnitzer money, and it's high barrier,
Oh,
Yeah, it's a high barrier.
and you have to pay to stay.
it's like a hotel, huh?
Once they get you a job at the Amazon packing place, you gotta pay to stay.
uh,
Yeah, well, I mean, my point is that sometimes I got an idea people will run with. I have unique solutions to issues, and really most of it involves, bringing the community together to solve the community problems and keeping them well informed. It's just, you know what? You want to know my real secret to leadership? If you guys want to look it up, and it's not that hard. You just have to Google 11 principles of leadership. It's the military. They taught me that from day one. And it's like, know yourself and seek self improvement. Keep your subordinates well informed, uh, find the strengths and weaknesses and the people that work with you and for you, and then send them to succeed and not fail. It's basic stuff, but it works. And lead by example is one of them. So that's really what I'm trying to bring to Astoria. And as far as changing the story, I know that was a few questions back, but I've talked to so many people, and then the number one rule they told me is honor our history and
Mhm.
our heritage while encouraging economic development. And I plan to do that because that's what makes this story amazing, is
yeah,
because it's been like that. I
it's
mean, we
truly
were built
unique.
by fishers and fallers,
Yep.
and that is a pretty. There's nothing more Oregon than that.
Very much so. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about some of your other passions. When talk to people about you, I'm like, the dude gets out there and helps his community. He writes, he draws, he does all kinds of cool stuff. You had a book come out a few years ago. I have a copy of it. I know that you've been doing some artwork lately, which I'm like, please be bad at something so I don't feel kind
Yeah,
of
if you hear me
so
play the guitar, you're gonna get your wish.
well, I can't
Don't
do
listen
that
to
either, though. Talk about some of your other ventures too,
it.
because I think folks that are getting to know you would probably really love to understand some of your other passions and things that you've been pursuing.
Well, I've always written, and so after I got back from the war, I was really written and drawn and painted, really into the arts, and I really credit art with saving my life, and I really believe that art is the reflection of a soul of a community,
Mm,
and so that's so important to me. So I love art. When I came back from the war, I was really struggling with post traumatic stress disorder and survivor's guilt.
yeah.
And so I finally went to a woman who was a nurse in Vietnam, and she said, "What did you do before you were Sergeant Davis?" And I'm like, "Well, I used to draw and write, do that." And so saved my life. So that's why I think it's so important. So now I have a master's degree in writing from Pacific University, and I help tutor and teach writing. I do it with the Writers Guild of America, or the Writers Guild Institute out of New York City, and with the Wounded Warriors Project.
Mm,
A lot of different veterans organizations. I do like writing through trauma because that's really what helped me. The Wax Bullet War was my book. I think it came out like 10, 11 years ago, but I got to do a whole national tour on it and everything. I was reading the worst moments of my life to complete strangers all across the United States. And it was horrifying as that sounds. It was cathartic. So
yeah.
I want that for other people. I always painted and just created art. And so we're doing that with our nonprofit. I'm actually on the Arts and Culture Committee here in Astoria
Mm,
through the ADHDA. And I'm also on the Design Review Commission. I guess I'm already a city commissioner, but we have that anyway. But back to art. So we're doing we do art walk every This is like second Saturday of every month. Today is Art Walk. I'm going to be down there and helping one of my buddies with her show. And I helped start Art Mart, which was an amazing little art store that Heather July Gauguin does. And that's who I'm helping today. And
Mm.
it just won an award like through one of our organizations. So they're doing great. And then November, we're doing a veterans art show at Sisu Brewery and on the art walk. So I'll have a couple of pieces in there too. And Sisu is right downtown Astoria. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, I have a passion for art, passion for writing. Other than that, I'm dad taxi. I'm so proud of my daughter. She's 17 now. I mean, Kip, I'm sure you remember her running around. He's so small, but now she's 17. She's already been to the North Pole. We sent her
Wow.
on an
Yeah.
expedition up there, and she got to touch a glacier and just do water samples and look at the different animals up there. Right now, she has an internship at the wildlife center of the North Coast, and I
Oh,
drive her out
wow.
there every day. So, and I'm supporting my wife. I'm cleaning the house and doing laundry and doing dishes because my wife works a full-time job as a compliance director, and she's going to school full time, and she has an internship at Discovery Recovery up at Long Beach in Washington. So she's really
Fantastic.
busy. So it's a whole family effort too. And I want to say that I wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for my wife and daughter and my adult children. I'm just blown away by them every day.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
I had some questions regarding veterans and treatment and just like what support exists, but that kind of hits more of a federal question more than like a
Well,
story
my
across the
nonprofit is
country.
is so everywhere I go, I try to volunteer, especially with vets. And so when I got here, I volunteered with a group called Together with Veterans, and it's a chapter. There's multiple chapters. We started one here in Oregon, and we helped start one in Central Oregon. And I found out that Oregon has historically been for a long time in the top 5 of all states for veteran suicide in rural areas. So
Mm.
me and a friend of mine who's another combat vet, we started Rogue Cell nonprofit, and we drove 4,000 miles around rural Oregon just asking why, what can we do to help?
Mhm.
And we found out a couple of answers just kept repeating. One was a loss of camaraderie. We go rural and we isolate. Two was the lack of healthcare resources in rural,
Mm.
Oregon. Three was there's a higher gun culture. So we partnered with some gun safety organizations. We created the vet coffee from camaraderie. With that, the dog walk that I was on this morning, that was for veterans. And we started the softball team, to mix with veterans and non-vets because I do think there's a stigma out there where people think like, oh, they're veterans, they're disabled, they're crazy, they're going to go, because that's what you see on TV and the movies. If you see a veteran Act 1, Act 3, they got a gun to their head or they're screaming at somebody. So we're just on a show like we're just regular people. So that's what my main role right now is creative director for Rogue Cell, and then running from here.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I know a number of people who are veterans and they run different generations. So it's like, I know some guy who's about 83 now and he still takes martial arts and rides his Harley and does all that. And then there's a whole group I know who's around my age. And some of them went to law school and some of them became social workers and some of them are just doing the daily grind trying to figure things out. And, one of the things I hear them say is that there's not a whole heck of a lot of like government support. Like the VA is great and does all its stuff,
Yeah.
but sometimes at the end of the day, it does come down to how can you figure out what's best for you?
It is, and
And
there.
where's the camaraderie and where's the groups that work with you for you?
Yeah, I mean, because veterans, like any population, is very, very they're varied. There's so many
Diverse.
different it's a huge spectrum, right? A lot of people think, "Well, you're a combat vet, you have a Purple Heart, you must be a hardcore Republican." Like,
Like, no.
not so much. They just have a set idea about you, or you like you went through war, you gotta be crazy, you got PTSD. I'm like, "Well, yeah, but it's not how it is in Rambo," you know? It's a lot different.
Thankfully, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a good circle to come back around to because as long as I've known you, it's always been about community and what people need to feel supported and included and cared for, and that's one of the things I've always appreciated about all my interactions with you over the years is that's just who you are. So when I heard that you were running for mayor of Astoria, I'm like, good. So I'm really grateful for that, and I think Astoria will be as well. Is there any topics we didn't touch on that you do want to talk about?
Well, the biggest thing is I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have an opponent. I think that we're gonna be running up against somebody, I've been hearing that is going to run, and they have a lot of money, and like I
Yeah.
Mm,
said, I'm just a middle class guy with working family. I put a lot of my money into this already because I was lucky enough to have a savings. I do need help,
mhm,
and if people do feel like they can give anything, 5, 10, $20, they can go to seandavisforastoria.com, and on the front page, there's a donate button, and anything would be helpful. I need money for lawn signs. We're going to put together an ad for our local community theater that goes on before the movies. There's a couple billboards out there, do some door hangers. I mean, all of that stuff costs a lot of
yeah,
money, and I hate asking for it. I really do, but it's necessary. So.
yeah. How else can people find you out there?
Well, other than Sean Davis for Astoria.com, there's roguesale.org, which is my nonprofit. And we're always trying to figure out some better things to do. We're always open for ideas and working with other organizations.
Mhm,
And then there's SeanDavisWriter.com. It just has, a list of my books, some of my art, and stuff like that. I'm really an open book. I didn't create another Facebook page for my mayoral campaign. If you want to look at my old photos of me being a goofball, I don't care. I mean, that's who I am as a human. So that's cool. I'm dressed up like a space cowboy in one and as Bigfoot in another one, but that's me being me. So
How
well,
polarized do you feel like the political climate is in Astoria? Like, if somebody else does jump in the run, do you feel like
yeah.
they're going to be running all the way on the other spectrum, or you guys are going to be close in terms of values?
I don't own millions of dollars worth of property, and I
Right.
don't and I the person who I'm trying really hard not to be negative. I do respect the people who are in there. The mayor, I mean, you don't get paid that much, and you're really putting yourself out there, and people are yelling at you all the time. But my values are for the working class families here. But also, I'm talking about the homeless issue. Definitely empathy, but also that he has to have a sense of accountability. And that goes both ways, not only for the people giving the resources, as people who are taking the resources. We have to find a way to inspire people to get off the streets. I think that'll be a lot different than what the current um, policy
potential.
is.
Oh, policy. Okay, yeah, I
I
see.
think it's right now, we're eyeing at taking resources away because we think people are coming here for the resources,
Right.
and I don't think that's correct. But
Mhm,
for affordable housing, I'll give you an example. I think like how my opponent would is always about these small single family housing. We need single family housing that's affordable here. But we had two proposals the other week for land. We're doing a community land trust here, and one proposal was for pretty much workforce housing, condos at 80% AMI, at average median income. So a two-bedroom condo would cost about $220,000 for a first-time buyer in a family. I think that's awesome. We need that because, like I said, when I went collecting signatures, the people couldn't sign because they couldn't afford to live here.
mhm,
So instead, the staff and the mayor picked cottage cluster for single families, which again, we need that, but I think that we definitely need workforce housing here as well. I mean, if you have two-bedroom condos, a small family can also get into there, not just a person working at a pub or something.
yeah,
So there are big differences to how it would be and how it would. My biggest weakness, and I know this, is that I've been here 4.5 years. You have families and that have been here for 6, 7, 8 generations. So that's difficult to fight against. But I would tell them like, I understand why you're so protective of this city, and I don't want to change it. I moved here because of that. So
Yeah, and you're not trying to turn it into a Portland or an LA or anything. You just want to make
right.
sure that the folks who are there can afford to live there.
Yeah, I mean, my families were all fallers. My dad and my uncles were all lumberjacks and
Mhm.
timber fallers. I grew up in Central Oregon, very rural. And when the timber industry failed, I joined the military instead. It was an economic draft. There was nothing else there to actually make money and try to create a family with. So that's how I ended up in the military. And so I'm getting out, and I want to make sure that this place isn't, a one-legged table. you have to have, 3 to 4 legs to your table, or it's gonna fall over, and I know this, and I have skill set, training, and experiences that I think that'll be very useful to this town, so that's why I'm running.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
feel I feel like that's the story with so many states. I mean, you have upstate, downstate kind of battles, but it's
Mhm,
like the moment a factory leaves this one town, the whole town, nobody has a job, and what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
right. And, your intents for Portland, which finally we were able to change the city council structure here, but if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're in the challenges that Astoria currently has is because there hasn't been a lot of new ideas coming in to actually change things.
Yeah, I think the
So
most dangerous phrase in the human language is, "We've always done it this way,"
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So I really appreciate you stepping out and stepping up yet again. And it's been great talking to you, Sean.
Thanks, Kip. Thanks, Kat. Kip Kat.
Alright.
Kit Kat. Yeah,
You
exactly.
got a new
Let's
podcast
not do that ever.
No.
Alright,
Um,
Cat Kip.
okay. Hey, dude, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And
Hey, it was great
good
talking to you.
talking
Thank
to
you
you.
so
Progress
much.
Portland is also on Facebook and Instagram, and we have event listings and updates on our website, progressportland.org. There's a content form on our website if you'd like to help out or have questions or comments. Our theme music is by the Portland band Helvetia.